One thing I've learned from horror movies: nothing good happens at the lake. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Horror Movie Syllabus. My name is Professor Victor, and I'll be your host as we go through all of the essential, noteworthy, interesting, and notorious modern horror films. If you're new to the channel, I recommend you check out our introduction video. There's a link to it in the description below, and it's going to give you a pretty good sense of what we do here at the Horror Movie Syllabus, which is we look at a particular subgenre of horror, and then we pick 3 movies from that subgenre to explore. But this is our Is It Syllabus-Worthy series. This is where I take a recommendation from you guys, a horror movie that I've never seen before that you guys recommended in one of the comments to my videos. I watch it for the first time without knowing anything about it, and then I let you guys know, is it syllabus worthy? Is there something about it that makes it worthy of being on the horror movie syllabus? And today, the movie that we're looking at is Caddo Lake. And Caddo Lake was recommended to me by my friend Steve. He recommended it to me offline, actually, not on a comment to the video. And Steve knows me pretty well. He's a big horror fan, and he and I have similar sensibilities. And he told me that this movie would be up my alley. That's pretty much all he said. That, and he said that Dylan O'Brien was in the movie, who I think is a pretty good actor. That's it. That's all I knew about it. Now, I did know that this movie came out last year, and it was one that kind of just fell through the cracks. I was trying to see a lot of movies in 2024. There's a lot of good horror, and I was really doing my best to try to get a good idea of everything that was out there in horror. And Caddo Lake was one that I'd heard about and had a little bit of buzz, and I couldn't get to it. It just fell through the cracks. I never got around to seeing it, and I didn't know much about it. I just knew that I was on streaming and that people were talking about it, and the reviews seemed kind of mixed. So that's all I knew, and it presumably had something to do with the lake. That was it. I didn't know anything else about it. I didn't go look for anything else about it before checking this out. I went in as unseen as sight unseen as I could, knowing everything. Didn't check out any reviews or trailers or anything until after I watched the movie. And did I love it? Did I hate it? Let's find out. Like I said, the movie that we're looking at today is Caddo Lake. Caddo Lake came out in 2024 and is from the directing team of Celine Held and Logan George. And I'm not really familiar with the other things that they've done. They haven't done a whole lot of stuff, but I haven't seen anything else that they've done before. But it is noteworthy that the producer of this movie is one M. Night Shyamalan through his Blinding Edge Studios. That's an interesting thing, and it kind of shines a little bit of a light on what this movie is going to be about, but only a little bit, because this movie still goes places that I wasn't exactly expecting, and it helped because I didn't know what this movie was about. But I'll stop there, and let's go ahead and get into this. If you haven't seen it before, the movie takes place in rural Louisiana near Caddo Lake, and it's about a family whose daughter or stepdaughter goes missing. She's like an 8-year-old girl. She goes missing on the lake, and everybody's looking for her. Meanwhile, there is all kinds of family drama going on, and there's all these interpersonal relationships that are kind of going on while this search for this little girl is happening, and while everybody's freaking out, and all these dramas kind of coming to a head, and everything's kind of going nuts. And I'm gonna stop there so as to not spoil it for you, but the movie is a really it's going to be really hard to talk about this one and not spoil it, but it's super important that I don't spoil it. So that's the challenge for today. I had the benefit of not having this movie spoiled for me. Like I said, it had a lot of buzz last year when it came out. People were talking about it. People seemed to either really like it, or people didn't seem to really care for it very much. And I didn't know why, and I didn't go digging into it. And I'm glad I didn't, because I feel like not knowing anything about this movie is really the way to go in. And I'm so glad that I was able to do that. Like I said, I heard good reports, I heard bad reports, but I didn't hear any spoiler reports. And that is very good. That is really what helped me to enjoy this movie, because somehow people kept the surprise aspect of this under wraps. And I think that may actually have affected the buzz for this movie. Like I said, I don't think that there was a very clear consensus on whether or not this was a good movie or a bad movie. And I think part of that is because people didn't want to spoil the movie. So people couldn't talk too much about what they did or didn't like about the movie without spoiling it. And God bless every one of you who didn't spoil it, because I was able to go into this fresh, and I think that helps enjoying the movie quite a bit. Now, that said, the movie does start off quite slow, and it's a little bit hard to get into this because you've got these two different storylines of two different families going on, and you're clear that they're going to converge at some point. There's going to be something that connects these two divergent storylines together, but you're not clear early on what's going on, and you're trying to figure out the relationships that these characters have with each other and what the family dynamics are, because they're kind of a convoluted blended family and there's a lot of different things going on and you're not quite sure how everybody connects to one another, and it's a challenge trying to suss all of this out. It's very clear that these families are the focus of the movie, that they are the primary thing that's going on. And it's a little confusing at first because you've got these two different storylines. They're in the same area, so you know that they're going to connect, and you know that there's family connections. So you're assuming everything's connected to each other, but you're not sure how. You're not sure why, and you feel like you're trying to play catch up because you are. This goes on for like a good 20 minutes before you get the inciting incident of the little girl going missing. And you're aware she's got a stepsister, she's got a stepmother and her father, and there's this blended family aspect going on. And there's a lot of focus put on this in the first 20 minutes, and it seems kind of like treading water or padding or whatever, because you're waiting for this to happen. You're waiting for something to happen. And then finally it does, and you're wondering, why did you spend all this time on this? And you're going to find out later on it's important that you spent that time, but at the time that you're going through it, it's kind of odd. And then even when you get the lost girl, the family dynamic stuff is still the focus. It's still really at the forefront of what's going on in this movie. And then about halfway through, then things get really interesting. And that's what we're going to have to dance around today, is that thing that happens halfway through that makes this movie just change and go in completely different directions. And everything you've been watching is a good setup for that. Now, taking a step back, I want to talk a little bit about the filmmaking in this movie, because it's very solid. It's very good. And then the cast of this movie, which is exceptional. Like Steven mentioned Dylan O'Brien in there, and he's great, but everybody in this movie is great. Everybody's doing great work here, and it's important because I mentioned there's a little bit of a pacing issue early on. Like, it's slow to start, you kind of going through all this stuff, but that slow start and that pacing is offset by this really good cast. You've got Dylan O'Brien, like I mentioned. You've got Lauren Ambrose from 6 Feet Under, who's great. You've got Eliza Scanlon, who I'm not super familiar with, but she's the main character in this, and she's excellent in this movie. She's really doing an excellent job here, but everybody's doing an excellent job here. And not for nothing, these people actually look related, like Eliza Scanlon playing Lauren Ambrose's daughter, and they look like they're related, like blood related. And this is all important stuff for this movie to make this work, because the characters in this movie matter so much. The family drama in this movie matters so much. I said it's the focus from the get-go in the movie. It's the focus throughout the whole movie. And the setup that they're giving you at the beginning pays off very much in the second half. All of this family drama, the dynamics, all of these different characters and how they relate to each other and interact with one another is super important in the payoff in the second half. And when everything twists and goes in a different direction, all of this groundwork matters. It all matters. And the directors are doing a really good job of getting these performances from their actors. They've cast it extremely well. They've made the appearances and everything like that really well. They spend the time in setting up the dynamic of the families and why they are connected the way they are connected, so that when everything starts going off in the second half, you understand and you're there for it and you get what they're trying to do, and it pays off wonderfully. They've set this movie in a Louisiana, like, swampy lake area, and it's a really cool looking setting. They've shot the hell out of this. It looks really, really good. And they have this interesting idea about how the lake has, the water recedes, and then there's a drought periods and the water recedes, and so certain areas that are accessible by land aren't accessible when the water's rising, and all of this stuff is just kind of interesting backdrop that winds up being really key plot points later on. But they don't over-explain the phenomenon. When things start happening, and again, I'm dancing around a lot of this, it doesn't get over-explained. They don't spend time trying to make all of the math work, so to speak. They just give it to you, and you either roll with it or you don't, and I roll with it. This movie winds up being a lot deeper than I expected. The mystery winds up being deeper than I expected, both in terms of like theme and what the meaning of it is, but also in terms of like how broad and wide scoped the mystery is. And this is again where I'm going to get a little bit vague because it's hard to explain some of this stuff without spoiling the movie, and I really, really don't want to spoil the movie. But what I love is this movie has been giving you clues all along, and at the end, they're all starting to come together, and you didn't even see that they were clues. Like I picked up on things early on this movie and then dismissed them because I didn't I chalked them up to filmmaking issues. Like, oh, that was a poor filmmaking decision to do this. Nope, it's a clue. And I just dismissed it as something else. And I didn't realize that it was a clue that the back of my brain was picking up on, and the front of my brain was like, nah, no, that's just a mistake. They should have done it this way. Nope, it's intentional. It's on purpose. It's done well. And I can't really I won't spoil what these things are. These things that are tickling my brain and stuff like that, I can't even tell you what they are because it spoils where it's going, and I don't want to spoil where it's going. I will say that maybe it's not the most totally original idea, but it's for me. It's in my wheelhouse. It's up my alley. It's definitely the kind of movie that I like. And I didn't see it coming. Again, partly because thanks to all of y'all who had seen it and didn't spoil it to me, and partly because it spends a lot of time setting up a family drama rather than what this movie actually is. It really hides the ball. I will say it's not really exactly a horror movie, probably more of a thriller drama movie with some other stuff thrown in there that I'm not going to talk about, but it's definitely my kind of movie, definitely the kind of thing I like to watch, definitely the kind of thing I like to talk about. But is it the kind of thing that makes it on the horror movie syllabus? Let's find out. So, is Caddo Lake syllabus worthy? Yep, absolutely it is. This one very much works for me. The family drama stuff alone is kind of something that I really into, and this movie does a really good job of setting all that up, the interpersonal relationships, the family dynamics, all of that stuff's working really, really well. And then the fact that the movie goes where it goes to and all that stuff matters and pays off is exquisite. It's wonderful. It's very much me, very much the kind of thing I'm into, very much what I want. Like I said, the movie's barely horror. It's really hard to argue this is a horror movie. It really is more of a drama thriller and type thing. And but here's the thing, I don't care. I don't care. You know I don't care anyways. I call everything horror. I'm very broad-minded when it comes to that. But in this case, the movie's so good and does so much of what I wanted to do that I would find a place to put it on the syllabus for sure because I just liked it that much. This movie blew me away. I'm so glad I didn't know where it was going because it was such a wonderful surprise that I got so locked in. The second this movie did what it did, I knew that I was going to be saying yes to the syllabus on this. And here's the thing. I have a very clear subgenre in mind for this. I know exactly where I would put this on the syllabus. I know exactly where I would, but I'm not going to say because I don't want to spoil it. And it's a total spoiler if I tell you where I would put this. Now, those of you that have seen the movie and you know it, you know exactly what subgenre I'm talking about. You know exactly where it belongs. It's a perfect example for this, and it's exactly where I'd put it in there. But of course, I can't talk to you about it. And that's the thing about this whole video, this whole review is I'm dancing around the really big aspect of this movie that, because I don't want to spoil it. Because I really, if you haven't seen it, I really want you to check it out. And I really don't want you, I want you to have the same experience I did and have it unfold for you. And here's the thing. The reviews that I read after the fact, like I went on Letterboxd and checked the reviews like that, they did a really good job of really dancing around this as well and really not spoiling it for you. The Letterboxd reviews are actually pretty great for the most part. I'd say avoid them until you've seen the movie, but just in case. But they did a really good job of this. Like probably the funniest thing was like I loved the funniest review was you can't have two redheads in a movie, and I thought that was hysterical. And I started thinking about that. Maybe that's actually kind of true. And so that is like I don't know. I just again I want to talk more about this movie and don't want to spoil it. So that's a challenge, but it's a movie that deserves more love. It deserves your eyeballs. Like I said, the audience reactions seem kind of mixed this movie, but critics did really like this movie. The critical buzz on this was good. So it's not just me. The movie is a bona fide, objectively good movie. Really good movie. Not everybody loved it, but I certainly did. I was very high in this movie, and I implore you to check it out if you haven't seen it because I do think it deserves more positive feedback, more buzz, more people looking at it, and just kind of getting it out there a little bit more. It's fantastic. So that's my thoughts on Caddo Lake. I love it. I think it's great. Thanks very much to Steve for making sure I watched this one. He was adamant that I should check it out and check it out soon. And I think it was because he didn't want it spoiled for me, and he was right. It didn't get spoiled for me, and it blew me away. I loved it. And I love giving you guys horror trivia. Now's the time of the video when I look at a horror trivia pursuit card live on camera and try to answer it live on camera and hopefully not embarrass myself. And since we were talking about Caddo Lake and we're looking at, it was basically a psychological thriller, let's look at the psychological category on the card. Here's our question. Who directed 1978's Martin? I know the answer to this question. I pretty much 100% know the answer to this question. And I was going to say I think we've talked about Martin on the channel, but I'm not sure we have. I'm not positive on this. I can't remember. I know it's written down in my notes. I know that I've definitely done prep work to have Martin on the channel. I don't know that I've actually done Martin on the channel. I can't remember. And I'm going to have to look into this. I think I have it because I think I know where I wanted to put it, but I'm not positive. I may have changed my mind on this. So that's me just kind of going through, and ignore me. I'm just kind of going through in my head. Suffice to say, Martin is syllabus worthy because it's going to be on the syllabus. Either it has been or it's going to be. And it's a really wonderful movie, but it's a lesser known movie. It's not the most famous movie in the world. And it's definitely not the most famous movie by this director who, like I said, I know who this is. Pretty famous director. There's a clue for you. And either you kind of know this one or you don't. Martin being an interesting vampire movie. But that, again, is kind of misleading if you're trying to get to the answer to this question, because that is not what this director is known for, frankly. But it is a wonderful movie. It is, again, like I said, syllabus worthy. And the director is a very famous horror director. And we've talked about this director numerous times on the channel. Very, very prominent director. So that's my one clue to you guys. I've kind of prattled on a little bit here, giving you guys some time to think about it, but it's time to lock in a guess. If you don't know the answer off the top of your head, which again, many of you horror hounds probably already know the answer to this, but if you don't, lock in your answer because I'm about to give my answer. So locked in? Okay? Okay. My answer is, of course, George Romero, or more specifically, George A. Romero, director of the Night of the Living Dead series of movies. Let me double check the card. George A. Romero. Yep. George A. Romero did Martin. Martin was after Night of the Living Dead and actually after Dawn of the Dead too, if I recall correctly. But he's known for the zombie movies. He is the godfather of zombie films, the modern zombie movie. But he made this vampire movie that's pretty great, frankly, and it's a little underrated or underseen and not as famous because he's overshadowed by these other movies that he's made. But Martin, if you haven't seen it, definitely worth your time. Speaking of your time, thank you very much for giving it to me with this video. I really appreciate you guys hanging out and listening to what I have to say about Caddo Lake. Thanks again to Steve for recommending it. And thanks to you guys for recommendations in general. You guys have been crushing it. This one was particularly good. This one really hit the sweet spot. Steve knows me really well. But the movies you guys have picked overall have been good to great. So keep those recommendations coming. If you come up with something that I haven't seen before, maybe I'll check it out and make a video about it. But until then, I'm just going to say, class dismissed.